Can't get any worse. How could it?
My dad could be the Black Hood.
Yeah.
Well, that was a bang of an episode. Someone gets shot and the Black Hood is now after Cheryl? Let's break down season 2, episode 20 of Riverdale right here on What Happened. Oh my, Riverdale family, like that was one heck of an episode tonight, huh? I mean, with only a few episodes left this season, things are really starting to get good, and I almost don't even know where to start talking. I mean, Betty confronts Hal, Veronica backs Fred, Fangs gets shot, Joaquin returns, the Black Hood shows up for Cheryl. This is just my face the whole time. Now, you know a ton went down in tonight's Riverdale, and I'm still processing it, and I feel like I still need to talk about it with all of you, so I want to say a big thanks to Amino for sponsoring this video. Now, if you want to keep the conversation going with me, you can just open up the Amino app, which is an amazing network of communities that cover literally everything from Riverdale to Marvel to conspiracy theories. Whatever you can think of, you can connect with fans that love the same things as you do right on your phone. It's that easy. You can join other Riverdale fanatics like myself in a special community where you can share fan fiction, fan art, talk about theories, all kinds of cool things, like even joining a chat. I could spend hours on this app, but I can't because I obviously got to get back to recapping this episode for you guys. But before I do, I created a poll asking which Riverdale character you wish had more screen time. I, of course, voted for my girl Tony, but be sure to download the app. There's a link in the description, and join the Riverdale Amino so you can cast your vote too, because I want to see your answers. Now, back to the drama of our little town of Riverdale. First, I gotta give a shout out to Vanessa Morgan and Charles Melton. It was announced today that they have been up to series regulars in season 3, which means we're getting more of Tony and Reggie. Although after this episode, I don't really want any more of Reggie. Sorry, dude. But also, like, aren't Josie and Kevin series regulars this season too, and we barely see them? So let's hope that all these characters kind of get their justice in season 3. But moving on, first up, let's talk about Veronica. Praise the Lord that after 20 episodes this season, she has finally had enough of her father and is turning her back on him. I'm not sure how well that will go for her, but I'm glad to see that she has wisened up and now she sees just how awful Hiram is. Like, seriously, this guy will put his whole family in danger just to make sure he controls the mayor's office and can build his dumb prison.
Are you the devil?
Anyway, Veronica's antics with Nick St. Clair from last episode have basically dubbed her a mafia princess and impressed 5 other families who are sending their sons to basically court Veronica, but not in the romantic sense, so that their families can make deals together. Veronica's actually pretty proud of herself and this accomplishment, and so she, speed dates with these suitors, and she finds one of interest, and that is Elio, whose family runs a bunch of casinos. Elio, kind of reminds me of Call Me By Your Name. Anyway, Veronica thinks that teaming up to open Sweetwater Casino with his family would be a good idea. Hiram thinks otherwise, though, and brushes off Veronica's proposal, saying that Elio's family's basically, the casinos are just fronts for criminal activity, so this partnership does not make sense for them. Veronica's not backing down, though. She thinks this whole casino thing's still a good idea, so she pays Mrs. McCoy for some legal advice and pretty much comes up with a legal way for them to open their own casino. But again, Hiram just blows her off. After the shooting at the town hall during the debate, Veronica tries to comfort Hermione, who is visibly and seems genuinely terrified and shaken up, as she should be. Veronica tells Hermione that maybe she should consider dropping out, but Hiram is right there to say that that's not happening because they've worked too hard for this. Hermione then gives in and sides with Hiram, but Veronica's just like, hold up, mommy dearest, you're willing to put your life in jeopardy to go along with this little Napoleon Syndrome man's ridiculous plan. Like, what the heck? Hiram then gets mad and demands respect, and Veronica claps back like, where the hell's my respect, dude? She's like, you don't give me any, so I'm done with you. And Veronica says that she plans to open the casino anyway, but Hiram is always 2 steps ahead, being the criminal mastermind he is, and says that, oh wait, but you don't have any money. He ended up putting the money from the St. Clairs in a trust that Veronica can't touch until she's 21. So, what's a girl left to do? She switches sides. She goes over to the Andrews house and tells Fred that she is backing him because she can no longer stand with Hiram. And of course, for our horny teenagers in Riverdale, this moment is a big turn on for Veronica and Archie as they head to the bedroom for some sexy time, which it seems like was part of Veronica's maybe plan that whole time anyway, since she already had her lingerie on. When it comes to the murder of Midge and solving the case, Sheriff Keller, well, is no longer sheriff as he's resigned and Sheriff Mineta is now in charge, and of course, he's one of Hiram's guys. So now Hiram controls the sheriff's office the register, and now all he needs is the mayor's office so no one can block his prison plans. He plans to make that happen by using the Dark Circle to do his dirty work. Archie has been busy canvassing the town, pretending to campaign for Fred, but really what he's doing is looking at every man's eyes in town, hoping that one of them matches the Black Hood. Hiram ends up convincing Archie there's a better way. Reform the Dark Circle, so Archie enlists Reggie, Moose, Kevin, and the rest of the guys. Moose then drops a bomb saying that the night of Midge's murder, they fought because Midge confessed to seeing someone behind his back, and that person is a serpent. They just don't know who. Now you know that Reggie really hates the serpent, so he is fired up and plans to figure out which serpent it is. Well, that serpent just so happens to be Fangs, hence why he was caught in Midge's dressing room that night. I guess he's not going for Kevin after all, or he just loves everyone, which is nothing wrong with that. Now this clash of the Dark Circle and the serpents obviously brings Jughead and Archie against each other again, but they have a talk and Archie says he'll try to get Reggie to back off Fangs while Jughead tries to get his footage back from the new sheriff, but that's unfortunately not gonna happen, so FP tells Jughead to get ready for a fight. Well, someone ends up leaking the video of Fangs and Midge, and I'm guessing that someone is probably Hiram, and this causes obvious trouble for Fangs, who ends up getting arrested at school, and it doesn't really look good for him since his switchblade also falls out of his pocket. Yeah, murder weapon perhaps? Fangs ends up being arrested for possession of a weapon on school grounds. Now all this just sets Reggie off even more, and the Dark Circle ends up showing up at the White Worm, causing destruction, slashing the serpent's tires, and all kinds of things. Jughead then calls Archie, being like, "What the hell, dude?" But it turns out Archie wasn't with the Dark Circle that night. He in fact fell asleep after keeping a watch in the living room since Fred ended up receiving a note from the Black Hood saying he was next. However, was this note actually from the Black Hood? Because you know what? It wasn't signed. So this just makes me feel like Hiram planted this note as a fake. Like, doesn't the Black Hood usually sign all his letters, even the ones made out in blood? Kind of suspicious, right? Anyway, Archie is pissed now and tells Reggie that the Dark Circle is disbanded, but surprise, it's not going to be because Hiram has actually been paying Reggie and the other guys, and now Reggie is in charge of the Dark Circle. In fact, it was Hiram who told Reggie and the guys to go have some fun in that serpent territory. Now, as Reggie is out causing destruction, Jughead has gotten Mrs. McCoy to represent Fangs, but things aren't looking good. At the debate, the Black Hood shows up and starts firing from the balcony, and since Fangs was in custody at that time, you'd think this whole thing would clear him, but of course the sheriff is treating Midge's death and the shooting as separate incidents. Well, it finally comes down to the fact that if the sheriff can't charge Fangs within an hour, he's gonna end up being released. But the problem here is that everyone's already assumed Fangs is guilty, and there are tons of protesters outside the sheriff's office, so it's not going to be safe for Fangs in the real world. And well, these protesters end up messing up FP's plans of getting Fangs out of town. Yeah, FP has called Joaquin to come back and help Fangs disappear to San Junipero, where Joaquin has been, and I really hope that this is the San Junipero from Black Mirror, because I think that's where everyone in this town should end up going, especially Cheryl after seeing the end of this episode. Like, if you're gonna keep her safe in any place, take her to San Junipero and take Tony with her and let them live a nice, happy life. Anyway, Jughead calls Archie for help because of all the protesters outside, and he says the Dark Circle's just out of control. FP, Jughead, and the Serpents then surround Fangs to try to get him out of the sheriff's office safely, but unfortunately Reggie's on a mission. Evil Hiram has convinced Reggie to take matters into his own hands when it comes to Fangs being guilty, so Reggie goes after Fangs with a gun. Archie manages to tackle Reggie before he could get to Fangs, but during their scuffle a shot is fired and it just so happens to hit Fangs in the stomach, and then all hell breaks loose. Freaking Reggie. I just want to slap him across the face. At least Archie, though, is finally coming around again to see just how bad this whole situation he's gotten himself into with Hiram has become and how evil Hiram is. Lastly, let's talk about my favorite part of this episode, cousins Betty and Cheryl teaming up. Yep, it turns out having murderous or so-called murderous parents is something they can actually bond over. Now, after last episode, Betty's now pretty suspicious and convinced that Hal is the Black Hood, so she's dropping little hints at breakfast all over the place and trying to read his reactions. He looks pretty suspicious to me. Now, when it comes to Chick, Betty has of course told everyone that she dropped Chick off at the bus station, including Jughead. Now, when Betty mentions that maybe her dad could be the Black Hood as to what could make the week worse, Jughead thinks it's just a joke, but for Betty, she's actually not joking. broken. She ends up pulling Cheryl aside and asking for advice about what Cheryl did, like if she ever had an inkling that her dad could be a murderer, and Cheryl actually says yes. Betty then says that she thinks Hal could be the Black Hood. She just feels it in her bones. But she doesn't want to go to the police because if it's true, she wants to be the one to confront him and stop him. So Cheryl gives her some advice and says that Betty just needs to buy herself some time, pretend like everything is normal because she's playing a dangerous game, and continue to do her little research. So what's next in Betty's plan? She tells Hal that maybe she and Alice should go back to work for him at the register, and Hal actually thinks this is a good idea. Well, late one night, Hal and Alice go out for dinner, and Betty stays behind to keep working when in fact she just breaks into Hal's desk and copies his planner. Cheryl then joins her at the office, and Betty explains that the dates of the Black Hood attacks match Hal's planner to when he has meetings or so-called business trips. I kind of find it pretty dumb that Betty and Cheryl did this snooping and met up to discuss it still at the register office when Hal could have returned at any moment because he was supposed to bring Betty back dinner. Just doesn't seem like the best place to discuss Hal. Anyway, as they're talking, Dr. Curdle, aka the coroner, calls and assumes that he's talking to Alice, but it's actually Betty, and he says that he has a body that was found off the highway mutilated, and it kind of matches the description of Chick. Betty ends up telling Cheryl the truth about what she did with Chick, so they go to see Dr. Curdle and they pay him off. Well, the body ends up not being Chick, but Betty's freaked out nonetheless. She's now like, what if, it was him, I'd be a murderer, and all these things are really starting to get to her. Basically, she says the Black Hood got what he wanted. They're the same. Cheryl then tries to comfort Betty and tells Betty to confront Hal with as much truth as she can just to see how he reacts. Betty does this at dinner and confesses that the Black Hood called her and how she handed Chick over to the Black Hood, and that if Chick is dead, she's an accomplice to murder and she's actually okay with that, and that she has this darkness in her. During all this confession, she keeps glancing at Hal. Now Alice, she doesn't really know what to say to all this, but Hal knows just what to say. He grabs Betty's hand and basically says he has darkness too, and that's why they need each other, and he kind of gives Betty this suspicious nod. Betty continues her detective work and finds out that even though Hal is back home, he's still paying for his B&B room. So what do Cheryl and Betty do? They break into that room and find that it still seems like someone's pretty much living in it. What catches Betty's eye though is that the Nancy Drew book is in the corner of the room. Just as she finds that, Hal calls asking if he should wait for her to go to the debate. Now I'm guessing it doesn't alarm Betty and Cheryl that someone is still using this B&B, because I'm guessing that they assume that Hal is using it during the day to do his Black Hood plotting, but I'm kind of thinking someone else is living there, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. At the debate, Betty continues to keep an eye on Hal, but then the Black Hood shows up and starts shooting from the balcony, and it's actually Hal who grabs Betty to try to keep her safe, which of course doesn't make sense to her if Hal is the Black Hood. Who's this other dude shooting up the town hall? Well, back at the house, Betty comes clean to Hal about breaking into his B&B room with Cheryl and brings up the Nancy Drew book, to which Hal says it was a birthday gift for Betty since he knew how much she loved it as a kid. Yeah, sure, Hal, we'll see about that. Betty then retreats to her room, takes out the Black Hood, and stares at herself in the mirror and decides it's time to up the ante a little. She calls Hal saying that they need to finish their conversation from earlier, and she wants him to meet her at the place where this all began with her speech at town hall. She just wants everything between them to be like he wanted from the beginning. Betty then sets up shop in the town hall and lays out the Black Hood, the book, and of course has Grundy's gun handy in case she needs it, and she sits and waits. The episode then ends with Cheryl getting a knock on her door, and uh-oh, the Black Hood is right there. And that wraps up the main events of this week's episode. Two other quick mentions. The Ghoulies are now out of prison and are looking for revenge on the Serpents, so that's something they're going to have to deal with. Plus, Elio mentions to Archie that word on the street is that Archie's one of Hiram's capos and is responsible for Papa Poutine's death, and that Papa's son Small Fry wants revenge. So basically, everyone has multiple people out to get them. Speaking of multiple people, here's what I think about the Black Hood. Now, when Betty mentions that Chick was a test, I think she was right. I think it has to be that maybe Hal and Chick are working together. Some of you mentioned that you still think Sheriff Keller is involved with this whole Black Hood thing, but I'm still kind of not biting at that theory at this moment. I do think more than one person, though, is the Black Hood, and that Hal is pretty guilty and Chick is involved. I mean, Chick wasn't in that body bag. Where is he? Plus, the carton of milk on the table in the B&B room just screams Chick to me, since Chick was often shown gulping milk from the carton. Now it's just a matter of what is Hal's motive, why would Chick help him, and if Chick isn't Hal's helper, then who is? Or is Hal not even the Black Hood? It seems like there has to be two though, because all signs are pointing to Hal and then someone else showed up as the Black Hood at the town hall. I don't know, it's still confusing to me and I just don't know where to go, but Hal continues to look guiltier and guiltier by the second, especially since Betty told Hal that she and Cheryl broke into his room, and then what do you know, we don't see Hal show up for Betty, but we see the Black Hood show up on Cheryl's doorstep. Why can't they just leave Cheryl alone? She's got enough going on as it is. Also, wasn't Fred supposed to be next? And I gotta say, poor Fangs. I have my fingers crossed that he survives because he deserves better. But hopefully now Jughead and Archie can team up to kick some butt and figure this whole thing out. For now though, let's watch the trailer for the next episode.
The Black Hood is an active shooter on the streets of Riverdale.
Some of the serpents saw Reggie with a gun.
Riverdale burning to the ground.
You don't scare me.
You were in on this?
Surprise! The ghoulies outnumber us 100 to 1.
If we're going down, we're going down fighting.
Oh yeah, war is definitely brewing in this next episode. The Ghoulies are back, Penny Peabody's back, we see Tony tied up, Archie's getting thrown into tables, guns are being thrown around, Keller's back. Seems like everybody's got a gun. I don't know. Basically, all hell is breaking loose. As far as performances go in this episode, like I said, I love the dynamic of Betty and Cheryl in this one, so props to Lily and Madeleine. I hope this actually kind of continues, seeing Cheryl team up with all these people. I love just seeing her with different people and the dynamics. But right now, I just still want to punch Reggie in the face. I'm not really a fan of this character so far this season. I think he started off okay in this season, but as it's progressed, he's just gotten more and more annoying to me. But I guess that's what he's supposed to be? I don't know. Now it's, though, time to discuss everything on this episode, and leave me all your thoughts down in the comments below. Are you convinced that Hal is the Black Hood? If so, who is his helper? If he's not, who's the damn Black Hood? Also, will the Ghoulies showing back up, as well as, you know, Small Fry, be the distraction that Hiram needs to get the town more in his clutches? Will anyone else die this season? Because that trailer makes it seem like there will be blood. Let me know all your thoughts on all these questions. This episode, the final episode's coming up this season. What do you think is going to happen? After that, you can click right over here to watch my breakdown of the 13 Reasons Why Season 2 trailer. If you like what you see, feel free to hit that subscribe button, the likes up. Thanks for hanging out with me to talk all things Riverdale as usual. We only got like 2 episodes left. Things are getting good, so be sure to come back next week so we can talk all about it.